Hello everyone. I present to you the last of the most powerful strats that came exclusively from patch 3.24 and its successive buffs. In other words, it's a one-time investment, except for one item which you will have to consume to preserve the rest. This strat is another reason why Mageblades and other tier 0 uniques are dropping significantly in price. Plus, this can also be tested in the standard league as it requires no specific lantern mods. This has to be run specifically in any of the T17 maps as they drop much more loot than any other map in the game at the moment. And this is because they have exclusive modifiers that grant a significant buff to pack size, item rarity, currency drops, map drops, and even scarab drops. So even if you were to run T17 maps casually, you could still make profit or at least get back your money from the fragments of the Uber map bosses. With back to basics keystone notable in the Atlas tree, you don't have to engage with any league mechanic nor wait for any ghost to touch monsters. All you need to do is just get in, kill monsters and the final boss of the map. So it's that simple, isn't it? No, it's not.
Ensuring our descendants have the means to return to greatness!
So before even throwing the scarabs, the most important thing to check is every single modifier in the map. Since you can only use Chaos Orbs to reroll the modifiers, you should carefully check for anything that can brick your build, especially mods like these and the ones that require the Juggernaut's Unstoppable or the Trickster's one step ahead. Ideally, you should try to roll at least 130% quantity, 50% pack size, and a 130% Scarab modifier for an effective start. But why is the Ziggurat map more expensive than all the other T17s? Well, the value of T17 maps can be summed up on the basis of two factors. One is their exclusive div card drops and the other is the Uber fragment that is dropped from the map boss. You can only get the Samurai's Eye div card from Ziggurat map, while you can only get the Artist from the Abomination map. The Uber bosses of both Ziggurat and Abomination maps can drop the most valuable item, and that is the Reality fragment which opens up the portal to Uber Maven fight, which can drop the Progenesis flask. It's an extremely tough grind if you are farming this in SSF, but this is how it works to obtain it. The popular T17 maps that people prefer is Sanctuary and the Fortress map, which have a much better layout and the following div cards that are worth the value. You can only get Sukkar of the Sinless div card from Sanctuary, while you can only get the Cheater and Dragon's Heart from the Fortress map. The most cheapest T17 map at the moment is the Citadel map, which is mainly due to its annoying layout. The upside, however, is that you can only get the Shield Bearer and the Wealth and Power from the Citadel map. So this is where we can target from these div cards, apart from the Scarabs and Uber fragments. But in this particular strat, since we have to use Curation Scarabs, all of these div cards will be replaced by the ones that drop from the maps we have favored in our Atlas. This is mainly to expand the spectrum of div card drops from both the ends. And here is a full list of the maps you should favor in your Atlas for the best possible drops. So the most important Scarab for the strat is the Divination Scarab of Curation, which also gives you a 12 times 10, that is a 120% more div cards from the area. In other words, you can get more than twice the amount of div cards using the Scarab with this set of favored maps. This is the most expensive Scarab at the moment. However, we only need to buy it once if we are using this Scarab, and that is the Horn Scarab of Preservation. This is nostalgic to the Harvest role where we could prevent our Scarabs from being consumed. And there's no way GGG is going to remove this one, as it's purely intentional and straightforward. And the Scarab also comes with a decent price tag. So if you're target farming the higher spectrum of div cards, we want to make a guaranteed profit from the bigger stacks as well, which are quite commonly dropped. Like the Fortunate, for example, which has a high stack size to fill. And this is why there is nothing better than the Divination Scarab of Completion. You will make tons of unions, lingering remnants, and plenty of other div cards with this in your set. For last option, we can either use Horn Scarab of Bloodlines or the Horn Scarab of Glittering. The Bloodline Scarab turns all normal monsters into magic rarity, which is straight up more loot than regular monsters. And if you're running this strat as a non-magic find build, the Glittering Scarab will be a much better choice to fill the gap in the loot difference. I wouldn't recommend magic find builds on T17 maps due to its sheer difficulty and its diminishing returns. At the higher end of the spectrum, you can expect the following div cards to drop in a couple of maps such as Fiend, 7 Years Bad Luck, Apothecary, and the Brother's Gift. So the strat is worth even more as the league progresses and the price of mirrors go up. Apart from all these, you don't need any other mods on the map device. So unlike Valdo maps, T17s gain all the benefits from your selected Atlas passive tree. But since we are using back to basics, we don't have to spec any of the league mechanics in the Atlas, except for these ones which I'll get to. This opens up a much wider space to invest into every single node for scaling your raw drops from Scarabs, maps, and the effect of map modifiers. The league mechanics we have blocked here also prevents their Scarabs from dropping. This also allows you to get better quality of Scarab drops instead of the trash ones. Now rogue markers don't have any Scarabs, so this one can be completely ignored. So the only points that we are investing in is for the Scarabs, maps, and the effect of map modifiers. But why back to basics? Couldn't we just go for strong boxes instead? Well, according to Grimrow, say if I roll a 70% more Scarab multiplier on this map and my Atlas produces a 90% increased effect, this is a 70 times 1.9, which is 133. In our best case scenario, if we get 80% more multiplier from back to basics, we can multiply that by 1.8, which is 240% more Scarabs from our map. This is also gonna multiply every other modifier in our T17 map, such as more rare monsters and item quantity, which is monsters drop more loot, along with monster pack size, which is straight up even more density. At the current moment, there is no league mechanic nor any map that scales this multiplicatively other than back to basics on T17 maps. If it were T16 maps, we could use the good old style Strongboxes, Legion, and Tormented Spirits, and it would be quite better than back to basics at a higher level of investment strategies. So basically with this strat, you are guaranteed to drop a massive quantity of raw Scarabs, which can vary from half a chaos each to a couple of divines. But the biggest profit you are expecting to get from a couple of map runs is from divination cards, especially the ones that are worth a mirror and tier 0 uniques. Some of these include the following. And if you're wondering how we are able to drop these div cards, it's explained in the Scarab section of this video. And this is why Divination Scarab of Curation is the most expensive Scarab at the moment. So let's imagine if you are the most unluckiest person in the league. You spend around 3.5 divines for Horn Scarab of Preservation, a 50 to 100C on your T17 map, and another 20C to roll your map. You're basically spending like 5 to 6 divines to run each and every single one of these maps. From the statistics I have gathered, the profit you will make from Scarabs will be worth at least a divine or 2, which means the Scarabs are not the only reason worth the grind, unless you get the top 5 ones most of the time. The Uber map boss can drop 1 or 2 fragments. I personally get 2 most of the time, but I've never seen more than 2 drop from a single boss. The fragment drops can be a mix of the 3, but not exactly duplicated. For some weird reason, POE Ninja considers these as currency items instead of fragments. If it were currency, you could possibly duplicate them using Aldridge Altars. So this is worth half a divine to do depending on the number of drops and the ones that you get. So if you are able to complete the map, you should be able to get back your investment. But the real money comes from the divination cards, which can be worth way more than any strat in the game. You will most likely drop several stacks of the Fortunate, Enlightened, and the Headhunter cards. This is why Divination Scarab of Curation is worth the price if you are using it with Horn Scarab of Preservation. You are also more likely to get any of the tier 0 div cards compared to any other map in the game. And this is why Crimson Temple farming with Strongboxes for Apothecaries has every right to become less popular and perhaps even obsolete if you can push player power beyond T17 maps. So make sure to subscribe, and under no circumstances should you miss out on these videos which are still functional past all the nerfs in 3.24. And thank you for watching.
Ensuring our descendants have the means to